Is Paul Feig's latest movie offered winning numbers, or is it just another movie to scratch off your watch list? Welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen Jackpot. Is it good, is it bad, or somewhere right in the middle? Let me know all your thoughts, your personal opinion on the film. Make sure to like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you aren't already to join in the film culture community where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. But going right into the synopsis. In the near future, a lottery game is set in place where the jackpot winner must survive until sundown with the whole town hunting them. Otherwise, the killer gets the winnings. But when Katie Kim accidentally arrives in town and wins the jackpot, she has to survive and get this amateur agent to help her out surviving the night. And going right into the positives, there's just a fun premise that is to be told throughout the film. Their action is great. The comedy has a lot of charisma to what it introduces to the characters. John Cena, Awkwafina, and Simi Liu just have great roles that deliberate on their characters as well, and while they're not intricately crafted for who they're dissecting, there is a little bit to be had with how they're digging out the depth of their past and bringing out a character out of them within this wild bonkers shenanigans wild ride of a film that has its action that pulls out some interesting ideas and delivers on something that is something kind of crazy as it seems. And while the filmmaking isn't the most deliberate, it is something that's easy to follow, well edited for Paul Feig, who has delivered on many other comedies in his past and is just someone that is familiar with the craft of filmmaking. And so that's what we offer and are introduced with this film, and you get something that makes sense for what the premise is asking for, and just the chemistry between each of the characters, especially between what we get from Awkwafina and John Cena. Their buddy cop type of duo is something that's good. You have to get comfortable with their pairing throughout the film because one doesn't trust the other, and just how Awkwafina playing Katie Kim has to survive as the character that wins the lottery that just happens to go into the state. There's just a lot of circumstances that lead her to that point, and it just delivers on the premise what you're getting. And also at the start of the film, there's a little prologue that sort of teases all of the ideas of the game, giving you this other subplot of the story that doesn't lead into it later on, but it gives you a great lead up that introduces the story in a great fashion. Just this one guy running and then the whole crowd running behind him, peering up over the hill, just does a great service to how you're introducing the film and the premise as a whole that gave it good laughs throughout and just a thrilling time here and then again. And going into some of the mix elements, this isn't an elaborate film, and some of the premise alone, it's just a far stretch of what makes sense for the morality of humans at this time. And so just what it has to be told, just with how things would be set up, it's not something that bothers me too much because it is the premise. It is the very nature of what I'm going into the film expecting to see. It can turn some people off maybe if you're not wanting this type of film where you have to suspend your disbelief from the get-go. Not only is it a comedy where some of the jokes don't always land all the time, but it does have that nature of having a premise where it doesn't make sense to have a jackpot where you're allowed to kill that person that wins in order to get the winnings. And so there's not really any great parameters behind that idea, the nature of what that would happen if they brought that into real life. That just suspends your disbelief completely. But for the nature of the premise, I'm not going to knock the film as a whole for what it does. And also going into end credits, there's a gag reel that I'm not personally a big fan of, and it doesn't affect the film as a whole, as a story, but it is something that for the viewing experience, there's a little bit too much repeating of certain lines that you didn't necessarily need to be repeated in the same section of one part of the film. And so just that, it's a little teaser that's fun for what you're expecting in the background, to have been going through different trial and errors of how certain jokes might have landed or what they had chosen out of. But overall, it does deliver on something that could be a hit or miss for some people. Which takes me right into the negatives, to which I have to say this was a bit way too predictable for what I was expecting. Certain things are starting to come up and you sort of start to see where it's going, and it happens just that way. Maybe if people are less familiar with the nature of certain films, then they might not see certain things coming. But for me, I just generally have seen many of the same notes, many of the same tropes before. And so the way they establish the characters, even though they do draw out some depth from them, they're still one-note-sided characters where they sort of introduce vague features or ideas about what happened in these two past, or what happened in Katie Kim's past, and they don't necessarily get to elaborate on it because you're stuck in this one setting, this one period of time that is short to some particular standard. And so there's certain aspects to that, and also how you have to suspend your disbelief for some parts of the action, how Katie Kim is given all this plot armor to survive the day for being someone that wasn't expecting of anything to happen. And so just all the things that could easily stop something in this situation should stop her, even after she gets the protection of an agent. It just delivers on something that, well, it is schlocky fun, it does have its own satire, and level of comedy works. It really bounces in on that and sacrifices some of the believability or some aspect of not trying to protect her too much or offering a lot more standards that go within the parameters of something that at least makes a little bit more sense, for a flow that just gives a sense of danger for what we're getting out of the main characters. Even if there is some tension that goes along the way, you're not necessarily looking at a risk that is really being taken within all of these main characters' lives. And so therefore, I have to rate Jackpot a simply 6 out of 10, where I did enjoy it for what it was, but it does get held back by the lack of originality in certain aspects with the comedy. Let me know down in the comments below if you've seen Jackpot. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Or is it somewhere right in the middle? Make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're ready to join the film culture community, where we talk about the love of cinema as a whole. So thank you for watching. Go do yourself a favor and go watch a movie.